Hello, friends. Welcome back to another review. Today is going to be a little bit of a day of sequels. I'm going to do at least two sequels today, and then an additional one that I thought about that I really liked and am wanting to do one today. But the first one is going to be Dead Space 2. I talked about the first Dead Space a little bit ago. That one did pretty well. I know the Dead Space remake is coming out, so I'm sure part of it is coming from that remake. But as you very well know, I love Dead Space. To me, Dead Space 2 happened to be a little bit better, in my opinion, than the first one. Now, granted, I do think the first one had a bit more of a good horror factor than Dead Space 2 does. Dead Space 2 does a lot more in the sense of story development and impressive looking situations rather than just the scares. Now, that's not to say Dead Space 2 doesn't have any scares or anything like that, but I think Dead Space 1 does the scares a little better, but almost every other aspect of the game is done better than Dead Space 1, in my opinion. Um, Firstly, the main thing you will notice different about Dead Space 2 is that Isaac has a voice now, voiced by Gunnar Wright, who is coming back, of course, to do Dead Space 1's remake voice. And so this was the first time we had heard him talk at all. We've heard grunts and stuff before, but nothing in the sense of like full dialogue or anything. And so this one we introduced to him in like a psych ward. One messed him up pretty bad, and now he's in a psych ward in the beginning of the second one. It has arguably the people would agree the one of the most intense openings to a game probably ever. There's probably some that get real close to it, but that one's pretty strong. I'll tell you the base of that one since it's the beginning of the game, but pretty much you're in like a therapy session talking about your girlfriend Nicole from the first game. You uh, kind of get visions and such that really are freaky to look at. As soon as you get into the actual game, you're woken up, and immediately there's a necromorph outbreak right exactly where you are, and you have to run while straight jacketed. And it's Lord, it goes hard immediately. So that's saying a lot too. That is an impressive opening. Freaks me out every time. Um, they do quite a few different about Dead Space 2. The big one also being where you're at. You're on Titan Station. It's kind of an orbiting station that's around Titan, like the moon, which is an impressive uh, place to even have the game. It looks so cool. The space stuff is incredible. I love space, as many of you may know. Um, so just having that kind of thing in space like that is really awesome. Uh, that's the big thing. I do like if you ever watch my stuff, I do try to take a look around pretty often when I'm watching it. Maybe at some point I'll have these reviews be a little more in depth about like visual stuff too. I'll probably start introducing that kind of stuff, but um the other big thing is the suits that you will encounter. I think to me that's a big thing actually because I love the suits. You still can eventually get his old engineering one, not through I think story thing or anything, but through like DLC, I believe. But there's quite a few suits in this one, compared to the first. There's also a couple of additional weapons. Now, granted, they did pretty smart, kept the weapons the same mostly. Um, didn't do too much to like change it up, which is good. Weapon system in one was real solid. All they did was improve upon it in two, and they didn't do anything crazy. And it's a wonderful choice that they did. But the suits, you get your security suit. That's your iconic one for Dead Space 2. It's the one you kind of see on the cover. Really good design. Changes up the helmet pretty heavily. My favorite suit, arguably, is the vintage suit. It's that really heavy duty looking, kind of bulky suit that looks almost like pre. It almost looks like a deep sea miner kind of suit thing. I love it. It's my favorite one. You should know. I love Bioshock for its underwater stuff. So the old fashioned suit there looks pretty up my alley, I would say. Um, You get, and also in addition now, the old suits used to give you more inventory space in Dead Space 1. The suit upgrades would give you inventory space and some armor stuff. Dead Space 2 does the same thing with suits throughout the game, but instead they will offer you small bonuses to certain guns. I think the old the vintage shoot gives you like rivet gun stuff, not rivet gun, but the harpoon gun riveter thing. That one I think gets some bonuses from that one specifically, and I think the pulse rifle gets stuff from the security suit. But that's a really cool effect, I think, because they don't add anything extra otherwise. These two suits are otherwise identical to one another, but them having a little bonus to a specific weapon is pretty cool, because then it lets you decide, oh, if this is my favorite weapon, well, the suit goes a little better with it, so I'll wear this suit, or vice versa. That's one of the big things about it that I loved the most was the suits. Um, I'm someone who wishes to cosplay at some point, and those suits are kind of some of my higher priority things to look at for cosplay. So if you ever see me maybe in public at some point and I'm doing cosplay stuff, you're probably gonna notice I'm gonna be doing some stuff you'll know I love from this channel. Dead Space, Bioshock, and like Halo and such. But trying to think, one of the other things they've introduced is a secondary child necromorph. Don't ask me why. I'm sure they got a huge backlog, their backlash from the first one. But the second one they added like actual toddlers, and they're crazy to fight against. They're called the Horde in this one, or the Pack. That's what it's called, the Pack. Pretty much you get rushed by a bunch of them, and then they come at you and try to just jump all over you and stuff. And oh no, they added two. I forgot about the babies, like the other babies. Um, but the Pack is like toddlers. They come at you. They try to like slice you up. It's still sad. Still very sad to be fighting those kind of enemies. I just remember they added like a different baby necromorph, which is an explosive one. They get near you, they try to grab you, and they explode. There is a scene. It's pretty graphic. I will warn, but it does involve the explodey baby ones and everything like that. But they also sorry, moving my snacks out of view. They also introduced luckily, let me think of what else they introduced. Got a few different boss guys out there that are pretty good. There is another scene in the game that uses a boss enemy pretty much in a really interesting way. Pretty much the combat was introduced on a level way above the first one, and I think that's what holds Dead Space 2 just a bit higher for me. I know some people think the first one's better. A lot of people think that number one adds um, way more horror, and I think is somewhat right, but Dead Space 2 does still do its job very excellently. I'm trying to think. Nothing much else, unfortunately, for Dead Space 2. Um, it's pretty cool to see Isaac. He does get kind of a new love interest in this one. And it's done pretty well, I think. It's actually, you don't like to see love interests that often in these kind of scary horror games, but it's done excellently in this one, and I think it kind of does lead away to three, but three, of course, is the unfortunate one of the three. It's not good at all comparative, and I'll be, of course, doing a review on that one at some point. It's going to be one of my other real low ones. But the last thing I wanted to talk about in this review was marketing. Uh, there was a marketing campaign for Dead Space 2. Uh, it's not the worst marketing to ever exist for a video game. It's pretty low though. I will agree people when they say that kind of stuff. Their whole marketing scheme for that one was that Dead Space 2 was so horror based and graphic and gory and just all sorts of bad that they were like, your mother's gonna hate this. And there was like a whole bunch of moms watching gameplay and just be like, "Oh my god, how I'm not gonna let my kids ever do this kind of stuff." And I was just like, like granted, it probably worked on me, but I knew my mom wasn't gonna watch me play Dead Space 2 or anything when I was a kid. But definitely wasn't gonna be. I think what they were trying to do was like have dads watch it and laugh a lot, pretty much like laugh at moms being like grossed out by Dead Space gore and be like, you know what, fine, I'm gonna give my kid this or something. Or kids just get so excited that their mom's gonna hate it and they're like, yes, I'll do it. I'll play it then. It worked. Dead Space 2 was still pretty good of a success. Um, I forgot to mention that it was still Visceral that made this one. They made all of them, but Visceral by the end was not quite Visceral, so this was the last one that had Visceral in its like prime making a Dead Space game. It came out. Oh, I forgot to say. Oh my god, I'm sorry. It came out 2011. By the way, I believe in August. I pulled up the Steam page and everything to get myself ready. January 25th, 2011. It came out. Sorry, I didn't remember to tell you guys that. That's the big thing about it. I think it also did have some exclusive stuff. I'm not sure based on the console, but oh, a little Easter, not Easter egg, but little kind of fun fact about Dead Space stuff is that a game that I'm probably not going to talk about for like a long time because I still played it, but I barely played it, which is PlayStation Battle Stars All Stars Battle Royale. Yeah, PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale. That's kind of what it named. Did have Isaac Clarke in it. I know I didn't mention that in the first one, but I just wanted to say that here. He is canonically in a game where you fight uh other PlayStation, which he's not a PlayStation character, by the way. He's not exclusive in any way. I played him on Xbox 360 for Dead Spaces, but they needed to pump the roster up tad bit, so they added Isaac to the mix. Which that game is canon based on the fact that even Kratos talks about it in God of War Ragnarok being inside of PlayStation Battle Stars and everything. I think it's hilarious. But that'll be it for this review. As always, I like to ask you to like and comment. What was your favorite suit in Dead Space 2? Which one did you enjoy the most? What's your favorite weapon? Do you think it's wrong for them to have added more children? They probably just added more children because people got so mad at the first one having children. But it's hard to say. They're virtual. They're video game characters. They're not real kids. I don't think anyone playing this game hates kids. Well, anyone playing it specifically because they hate kids, I should say. But what is your thoughts on that? I think they could have leaned away from it a little more, or just kept the one instead of adding more. I don't think they needed to add more, but they kind of wanted to have like these kind of creepy kid section things of the game. So I think that's also why they did it pretty heavily. Um, but as always, as well, I like to ask you to subscribe if you do. I think you're wonderful. If you don't, I still think you're wonderful. So it's completely up to you. And as always, I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.